Okay, what's going on, everybody? We are here. We're live. I want to thank you all for joining me today. If you can see and hear me clearly, please drop a one in the live chat, and then we can get today's stream started. Excuse me. And as I'm waiting for the ones to come in the live chat, if you haven't already, please hit the like button because that is the most important thing you can do for me on this channel. What it does is that it helps to make sure that those who are subscribed to the channel will indeed get their notifications, and it also helps to push this video through the YouTube algorithm as well. Secondly, if you're new to the channel, or maybe you, yes, you have been ghost watching this channel for quite some time now, please do me a favor and do yourself a favor by hitting the subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you can be notified whenever I release a new video. And lastly, please make sure you share this video out on your social media platforms as well to your family and friends to inform them of this news and information. And it does also help give me a slight boost in the YouTube algorithm as well. And with the introduction out of the way, let's now get into today's show. And today, we got to discuss Stephen A. Smith. We have to discuss Stephen A. Smith because it looks like this is the beginning of his apology tour. As Lamont Hughes says, they're about to put him on the apology tour. Yes, as many of you saw yesterday, I released a video about how the NAACP came down on Stephen A. Smith over comments made on Fox News with Sean Hannity, right? Made some comments on there. The NAACP came down on him heavy, came down on him very heavy. And other people came down on him too that I didn't cover in that video. I believe it was D.L. Hughley came down on him. Roland Martin came down on him, and a host of other DNC, you can say, black political pundits, and even those who don't normally engage in politics, just others who are in sports analysis as well, but they are black and they are Democrats, so they came down on Stephen A. Smith's head. And for the most part, he stood his ground for the most part at first. He did stand his ground a bit at first, especially towards the NAACP. He responded to them directly on Twitter, and he wasn't backing down off of anything that he said. But lo and behold, eventually the apology came. The apology came, and I will make sure to link yesterday's video on Stephen A. Smith for concerning why this apology eventually came, because I alluded to a possibility of it coming, and I alluded to what may be happening with him behind the scenes. And now that the apology has come, I'm not surprised, especially based off of what I discussed about Stephen A. Smith in the last video. But one thing that I didn't know before we get to the Stephen A. Smith apology, what I didn't know was the degree to which he was actually running around here in these conservative streets. He was out here in these conservative internet streets, going from conservative news channel to conservative podcast, right wing, right leaning, whatever you want to call it. He was going from each one, critiquing and having the audacity to hold the Democrats accountable, right, for having Joe Biden as the one who's up for nominee to run against Donald Trump. And I want to play a couple of those clips for you right now, because now it all makes sense when you see all the things that he's been saying on Fox News, News Nation, PBD podcast, and you take all that and you couple it with the critiques that he's had about the DNC over and over again on his own podcast, the Stephen A. Smith Show. It's starting to make sense now why they're coming down on him so hard, to the point to where he apologized. He apologized. So let's get into this first clip right here. This is Stephen A. Smith on News Nation, I believe, with Chris Cuomo. And I'm just going to play a little quick snippet of what he was talking about and what he had to say. Let's get into that right now.
That's why I said what
Do
I said.
you believe that the culture of grievance in America that has already had a home for many years in the Black American community, do you believe that there is a chance, the mythology that the black vote will never move to the Republican Party? We have seen, I think we have a graph, it's always over 80, 88, 90% going to the Democrats, but there has
That it's embarrassing. Here's a better chart. What you're looking at right here is the upward progression with which Black Americans have consistently, and when we're saying Black Americans, we're really talking about Black men, but have steadily began to vote Republican, right? 2012 to project to what's projected to be 2024, right? So the Republican vote amongst Black Americans has gone up steadily, election after election after election after election. But as it pertains to the vice grip that Democrats have on the neck of Black America, this right here really does it justice. As you can see, oh, it's too big. No diddy, no diddy. I can't pause no diddy, pause no diddy. I can't even show you that graph the way that I wanted to. I can't show you the graph the way that I wanted to. It's coming up, way too large. We'll say it's way too large. But on this graph here, that I've shown a bunch of times before, it just highlights that shift when it happened in 1964. Where once 1964 hit, from 1964 onward, Black Americans have been voting Democrat to the tune of 85 to like 90%. But yeah, I can't show you that graph right now because it's too big. Pause, no diddy. So let's just get back into what Chris Cuomo is talking about, and what Stephen A. Smith's response is.
Been some creep. Do you believe he could get 20%?
I'm going to rewind it back just a little bit,
The Democrats, but there has been some creep. Do you believe he could get 20% of the Black vote?
I don't believe he could get 20%, but I don't think he needs 20% in order to win the next election. I think the fact of the matter is that, as Charlemagne the God said on several outlets over the last several weeks, and especially when I spoke to him, Joe Biden is not necessarily inspiring. We don't want to admit publicly that Joe Biden's 81 plus million votes that he received in the 2020 election was a byproduct of people voting against Trump more so than voting for him. So people were incredibly inspired to go to the polls in 2020. There's a legitimate argument right now they're not going to be as inspired to do so in 2024. You couple that with the fact that you might creep up an extra 2 points or 3 points in terms of receiving the Black vote if you're a Donald Trump. Because remember in 2020 when he was campaigning, or actually 2016, I'm sorry, Chris, he said, what else do you have to lose? That's literally what he challenged the Black community with. And you had a lot of people scratching their heads asking that question because, yes, we get a lot of lip service and we're talked about it. We're talked to in terms of this is what they're going to do to you. This is why you should be scared of them. What about what you're bringing to the table? What about what you're offering?
And what he's getting into right now is a lot of what we've discussed as well. Is essentially the fear mongering isn't working. The fear mongering is not working. And at some point, you've got to bring something to the table. And here you have Stephen A. Smith echoing this out loud, literally saying with Chris Cuomo, like the fear monger isn't working. You've been doing that for a long time. At some point, you've got to bring something to the table. But clearly, as I've discussed ad nauseum on this channel, literally for years now, the Democrats never bring you anything to the table. The only thing that they bring you is fear, and apparently this reality that if Trump gets back into office,
they're gonna put you all back in chains.
They're gonna put us back in chains.
They're gonna put you all back in chains.
He's gonna bring back the transatlantic slave trade. That's what he's gonna do. That's what's gonna happen. And that's all they have to offer. And once again, in this day and age, it doesn't appear as if it's working to the same degree that it has throughout the years. But that's still yet to be seen. But this is, once again, just one example of a few examples that I'm going to show you of Stephen A. Smith out here, like I said, in these right-wing streets, just holding the Democrats to task. Now, here's another clip here. And this is definitely blasphemous, what you're going to see and hear from Stephen A. Smith on this clip here. Definitely blasphemous, if I may quote Stephen A. Smith, where he's on the PBD podcast on Valuetainment, and he's giving praise and respect to Sean Hannity, as well as giving praise and respect to Bill O'Reilly. That's blasphemous. That is blasphemous. Let's get into this.
Deal. But then I turn around and I go over to the right. I'll watch Chris Cuomo at 8. And I'll turn around and I'll watch Sean Hannity at night. We are very friendly with each other. We're friends. We've known each other for over 20 years. A lot of people despise Sean. Some go as far as hate. And then there are others who think that he is not as real and as authentic as he comes across. I'm here to tell you, he believes what he says. I'm here to tell you, I do believe he's authentic. And I don't agree with at least half of what he says. He knows I think he's nuts half the time. But this is what I marvel about at him. I have never in my life encountered anyone in this business more consistent than him. He doesn't stop ever. On camera, off camera, he's on message.
Hannity is who you're talking
Hannity.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm just looking at him, I'm like, how do you do it?
And that's not easy to do.
And that's not easy to do. And he does, I mean, every day, every night, he's on message. I looked at.
You can't be praising these, right-wing, MAGA-loving, demonic nuts like this, Stephen A. Smith. You can't be doing that. And of all places, you're doing it on a PBD podcast. This is blasphemous. This kind of respect that he's showing Sean Hannity is blasphemous. And if you thought that was blasphemous, the respect that he's going to show towards Bill O'Reilly is even more blasphemous. I don't know what Stephen A. Smith was thinking. I don't know what he thought. He thought he could hold the Democrats accountable on right-wing podcasts and on right-wing news outlets. Are you crazy? You're getting too big for your britches. It's time for the Democrats to cut you down to size.
Every night, he's on message. I looked at Bill O'Reilly. Why did I look at Bill O'Reilly? Ladies and gentlemen, winner. Nearly 20 years on Fox News. Number one. Every week,
that's insane.
Every month,
can you imagine
every
that?
year,
Yep.
for nearly 20 years. And when I'm talking about First Take on ESPN, that's where I get it from when you hear me say, I'm number one. Every week, every month, every year. I got that from watching Bill O'Reilly because that's the respect that I have for him igniting and basically defining the space that we're now all living in.
Way too much praise, Stephen A. Way too much praise. Oh, it's time for the DNC leadership team to cut you down to size. I don't know what you were thinking, brother. I don't know what you were thinking. You must not have learned and saw what happened with Tavis, back in the day when he had the audacity to hold Barack Obama accountable. And on no level am me personally holding him to the same level as Tavis Smiley. Some of you may know, how much, I like Tavis, right? So I'm not putting him on that level because Tavis Smiley, literally, he sacrificed everything. This is a guy that used to be a part of the club. And he sacrificed his whole career. He sacrificed everything to dare to tell the truth and hold Barack Obama accountable as it pertains to his relationship or lack thereof with the Black community. Meanwhile, constantly parroting and putting on a facade that he was for the Black community. And I'm rising from the ashes of Jim Crow and slavery. You finally got a Black president. We have arrived, but I'm not going to do anything for you, but vote for me anyway. And playing on the emotions of Black Americans just to do nothing for them. That is very sick and diabolical. Very sick and diabolical. And Tavis Smiley, who was once a part of the club with the Al Sharptons and all those guys, he was the only one who dared to tell the truth and hold Obama accountable. And it literally cost him everything. This is a guy who would still have his show on PBS right now. It would probably have moved from PBS to MSNBC or one of these other major networks by now. You'd still see him as some sort of a pundit on all of these, mainstream media outlets. He would be making millions of dollars right now. He literally gave it all up to tell the truth and never backed down from it and never apologized for it either. Never, not once did he apologize. So I just have to make sure to give you that long soliloquy, for if I'm saying that word correctly, towards Tavis Smiley, because on no level is Stephen A. Smith a Tavis Smiley, because Tavis Smiley never apologized. He never apologized, but Stephen A. Smith did, particularly coming off of this right here. This, what he said here on Sean Hannity, was the straw that broke the camel's back, that then led to an onslaught of Black DNC pundits and supporters coming down on I was gonna say Tavis Smiley, on Stephen A. Smith, in a worse way, right? In a worse way, in a way in which he has now since apologized. Let's get into what Stephen A. Smith had to say on Sean Hannity. Like I said, this is what really got him in a lot of trouble, in a lot of hot water. And hit the like button as well, please, if you haven't already. Thank you. And also, sorry, hold on. A shout out to Saul for always coming through. I appreciate you, Saul, for being the first person to contribute to today's stream and for always coming through almost every stream. He said, just here to show support. Thank you, Saul. I appreciate you, bro, for all that you do for this channel. Now, let's get into the blasphemy, according to the NAACP, that Stephen A. Smith engaged in when he was on Sean Hannity, a man who he just praised on the PBD podcast. He just praised him over here. Let's get into this blasphemy.
Something is.
Rewind it back. He came in hot. I got to tell you something. All right.
But I got to tell you something. As much as people may have been abhorred by Donald Trump's statement weeks ago, talking about how black folks, he's hearing that black folks find him relatable because what he's going through is similar to what black Americans have gone through. He wasn't lying. He was telling the truth. When you see the law enforcement, the court system, and everything else being exercised against him, it is something that black folks throughout this nation can relate to with some of our historic, iconic figures. We've seen that happen throughout society. So no matter what race, what ethnicity you may emanate from, we relate to you when you're suffering like that because we know we have. And that's what.
Ooh, he said Donald Trump is suffering. He said, black folks, we relate to you when you suffering like that. Let's run that back one more time. That's that good gospel. Stephen A. Smith was spitting that good gospel. We relate to you when we see you suffering like that. And Donald Trump is suffering. He's suffering, man. He's suffering. And Stephen A. Smith highlighted that. He highlighted the fact that this guy is suffering. And this is something that black folks can relate to, according to Stephen A. Smith. And yeah, he got in a lot of trouble after this. He got in a lot of trouble after this.
Something that black folks throughout this nation can relate to with some of our historic, iconic figures. We've seen that happen throughout society. So no matter what race, what ethnicity you may emanate from, we relate to you when you're suffering like that because we know we have. And that's what he articulated.
Well, like I said, after that, he got in a whole lot of trouble. Everybody came down on him, and he tried to explain himself. He tried to explain what he really meant. He swore up and down that you all misinterpreted what he was saying, but no one cared. NAACP, Roland Martin, D.L. Hughley, and a host of others came down on Stephen A. Smith's head heavy, and they broke him. They broke him. They broke Stephen A. Smith. In the last video that I did concerning Stephen A. Smith, I talked about how the video that came out yesterday, I discussed how we'll see how everything plays out for him as it relates to the similarities between him and Tavis Smiley, though he definitely is no Tavis Smiley, because Tavis Smiley never backed down. He never apologized. But as it pertained to the similarities at the time that I was discussing yesterday, I said it'll be interesting to see what happens with Stephen A. Smith after the election and once his contract is up with Disney/ESPN, right? If I'm not mistaken, Disney owns ESPN. And I stated that if when his contract is up, all of a sudden he finds himself coming, live on his Stephen A. Smith show and saying, "What's going on, guys? Stephen A. Smith is going independent." That lets you know all you need to know. He went independent because he's no longer in the club. And I said in the last video also as well, believe me when I tell you, he doesn't want to be independent. That Disney money hit different. That Disney money is good money. There's a lot of M's in that Disney money. Stephen A. Smith is not trying to go independent. Will he make a lot of money independent? A whole lot more money than I'm making here on YouTube. Yeah, he'll make a lot of money going independent, a whole lot of money, but it will not compare to the lifestyle that he is afforded by being contracted with Disney / ESPN. And that was what I said in the last video. And it looks like that has held up to be true. It's held up to be true because the next day he apologized. And here is the apology. They broke him. He said, "I want to keep that Disney money, man. I'm trying to keep that Disney money."
To touch on,
Let me rewind it back just a little bit.
I wanted to touch on something that I made news about just a few days ago.
He sounds sad, doesn't he? Where's all that energy at? He sounds down, sad, and depressed. It's very unfortunate. I don't like to see people like this. I don't like to see people like this when you're just defeated, when you're forced to do something that you really don't want to do and that you really don't feel in your heart to do, but you have to do it because, you want to maintain that lifestyle, man. Like I said, that Disney money. Hey, man, I mean, I'm not trying to convince anybody to walk away from Disney money, so I get it. You hold on to it. But, I do hate to see it. I know some people see Stephen A. Smith looking down and sad right now, and they're like, forget Stephen A. For me, I'm not going to lie. It kind of hurts me a little bit seeing a brother defeated like that. Man, he could hear it all in his voice, just defeated as he want to be.
I wanted to touch on something that I made news about just a few days ago. Let me say this, ladies and gentlemen. Accountability is where everything needs to begin in this world. It's something I say quite often. I certainly never hesitate to hold folks accountable when mistakes or mishaps occur. So I'm certainly not about to run from it myself.
J-Rock, shout out to FYBJ Maine. It hit different. Shout out to FYBJ Maine. I apologize, guys. I apologize. Some of you might not know what I'm talking about right now. I'm sorry for interrupting. I truly do. I just had to get that out.
Often. I certainly never hesitate to hold folks accountable when mistakes or mishaps occur. So I'm certainly not about to run from it myself. I'm fully aware that I've been in the news over the last few days, paraded all over social media as well, after comments I made during my appearance on Fox News' Hannity last week with the one and only Sean Hannity himself. And I'm fully aware of the outcry that has ensued because of it. A lot of folks in Black America seem pretty pissed at me right now, from friends and loved ones to colleagues, contemporaries, and dare I say, even the NAACP itself. Quite a few folks were put off, if not flat out offended, after my words were interpreted as associating support for Trump from the Black community with all the legal issues he's facing. For that, I sincerely apologize. To be clear, my word.
There's more. Just had to take a moment of silence because it is sad. I really do. And maybe some of you guys think I'm being facetious. I really don't like to see folks defeated like that. Just defeated. He doesn't mean that apology. He doesn't mean it. He doesn't mean it at all. But when you've built yourself up to the level that he has, attached to the mainstream, it's hard to detach, like I said, from those millions of dollars. It really is. It's hard to detach. If you don't build yourself up independently and you're attached to the machine, it is hard to let go of the machine because of the lifestyle that it affords him. And like I said, like you might think I'm being facetious, but I'm not. Feel bad for him, man. Feel bad because he does not mean this apology. He doesn't mean it at all. But they broke him. And if he doesn't want to end up on the bottom with me over here on YouTube, being all independent and stuff like that, you better get out there and apologize, boy. Better get out there and apologize, and he's doing it.
Words were misconstrued.
You rewind that back just a little bit.
After my words were interpreted as associating support for Trump from the black community with all the legal issues he's facing. For that, I sincerely apologize. To be clear, my words were misconstrued. I'm stating right here for the record that my words were taken out of context, misrepresenting and depicting me in a way I found every bit as insulting and disrespectful as folks in Black America evidently felt about what they thought I said.
No, don't try to pick your voice up now. It's too late. It's too late to pick your voice up now and want to have a little bass in your voice and want to say that you all misinterpreted what I said. You already apologized. You already apologized. Nobody apologizes if the reality is you all misinterpreted me. I didn't say anything wrong. You all got it twisted. I didn't say anything wrong. You guys just can't accept the truth. I didn't say anything wrong. You all misinterpreted me. If that's truly the case, then why are you apologizing? Well, once again, we all know why he's apologizing. We all know why.
But I'll own it anyway.
Rewind that back just a little bit again. Now let it play a little bit more without interrupting. At least I'll try not to interrupt.
I'm stating right here for the record that my words were taken out of context, misrepresenting and depicting me in a way I found every bit as insulting and disrespectful as folks in Black America evidently felt about what they thought I said. But I'll own it anyway. Because, you know, please know that I know the buck stops with me. I'm in the communication business. I've been here for 30 years, so regardless of whatever interpretation that accompanies any words coming out of my mouth, the responsibility ultimately lies with me first and foremost before anybody else. I've always felt that way. I still do. I always will. Period. Why did I say all of that?
Because you want to keep your Disney check. That's why you said all of that. I understand, brother. I get it. I get it. I think we all get it. You want to keep that Disney check. And listen, men have come before you that didn't apologize and lost it all. But we're able to build back, like Tavis Smiley. He's doing fine. Tavis Smiley isn't out here broke and busted. He's doing just fine out here. He owns his own radio station and everything, where he's running the show 100% completely. Tavis bounced back fine, but everybody isn't built like that. Everybody isn't built like Tavis Smiley. Clearly, Stephen A. Smith is not. So yeah, we all know why you apologize, brother. We all know why you're doing this.
Because I want to show you I didn't just open my mouth. I read, I listened, and I've seen a momentum shift, as we all have. Anywhere I appear, no matter my subjectivity relating to what I feel, is still going to be based on facts being presented into the stratosphere. That is who I've always been. It is what I will always continue to be. But it's never exercised with malice in my heart and soul. Certainly never to insult or harm the Black community, my community. My thoughts are put out there to present views I believe are pertinent, that alerts us to what's going on, what missteps may be taking place, and how, if at all, they could be corrected. I hope everyone can understand and appreciate my intent, if nothing else, as we march forward right here with the Stephen A. Smith Show. But just because my intent was harmless doesn't mean my words were harmless, and I know that. I can always do better, and I'll strive to do just that every single day that I'm alive.
God. Yeah. He said, I hate the way he's talking. I think we hate it for the same reasons, because it's just so just depressing. This man is so defeated. Like I said, he doesn't mean anything that he's saying. He doesn't mean anything that he's saying. But he has to bend the knee, man. He had to bend the knee for that Disney check. He had to do it. You know, I'm sure everybody tapped him all on the shoulder, because all the people that critiqued him and criticized him and came at him, he has relationships with. Many of them have been on his show, like Roland Martin. They've been on his show, I think, on, multiple occasions. So I'm sure they all came to Stephen A. All of the Black DNC elite, you can say, They all came to him, tapped him on the shoulder, and said, "Hey, man, look, we can't protect you." It's Cutthroat Nash. I hate Cutthroat Nash. I'm not gonna read that, but I'll put it on the screen. But I'm sure they all tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Hey, man, look, if you keep going down this path, we can't protect you. We can't protect you. And not only can we not protect you, we're going to be forced to come at you. We can't allow you to continue doing this. So we're going to have to come at you, and we're going to have to disassociate ourselves with you." Once again, like we saw happen with Tavis Smiley. But I have to keep reiterating, this man is no Tavis Smiley. He is not that, because Tavis Smiley never folded. He never apologized. He got knocked back. He got knocked down. They took everything from him, but he bounced back in the end. That's not who this guy is here. Tavis seemingly lost all his relationships, with the Al Sharptons of the world, with the exception of Cornel West. Because Cornel West was the only person that he was able to maintain a relationship with. Because I believe, if I remember correctly, not I believe, because I was an adult at that time. But from what I remember back then, Cornel West was really the only other person standing there next to him. But some way, somehow, Cornel West was able to survive. But he wasn't really. Though if I remember correctly, Cornel West he stood by Tavis throughout that time period. And he critiqued Obama as well, but he didn't go as hard as Tavis did. He didn't go as hard as Tavis did. But not to get too lost, in what I was originally trying to say. Going back to Tavis losing everything, as well as all his political connects, you can say, with the exception of Cornel West, I'm pretty sure they all informed of him the same thing. If you carry on this path, and you want to keep critiquing the Democrats in the middle of an election year, when Biden is struggling with the black vote, and it doesn't take much for him to lose against Trump, if you keep doing this, we're going to have to come at you, and we can't save you, we can't help you, and we can't associate ourselves with you anymore. So at that point, Stephen A. Smith had a choice to make. He had a choice to make. Do I want to keep my Disney money and my political connects and all these high profile relationships, right, with the black DNC elite and other higher ups as well that aren't black? Do I want to keep those relationships and my Disney money, or do I want to have it all stripped from me and have to start over again from the bottom? I mean, he would be starting all over again from the bottom with a lot of money in his bank account. It's not like he'd be broke and busted and hurting. But yeah, that Disney money, like I said earlier, is something else. And he chose the Disney money and his political connects and those relationships with the black elite. That's what he chose. And that's why he's apologizing now. And that's all I have for you for today. So I want to thank you all for joining me tonight. Please hit the like button on your way out. I have to give my thank yous to those of you who supported today's stream, because without you all, I don't exist. Shout out to Saul once again for coming through, as you always do. I appreciate you, Saul. Janesta Coleman, I appreciate you, Janesta. Thank you. She said hello, TD Media Group and the chat. Shout out to Kirk Alton, who said Stephen A. dropped that apology quicker than J. Cole. Ooh, that hurt, because J. Cole was always my favorite rapper. Don't bring that up. That still hurts. That J. Cole. The J. Cole apology still hurts. He did release that faster than the J. Cole apology, though. Cutthroat Nash says, nobody cares about the NAACP. I sure don't. I sure don't care, Cutthroat. And Bob said, he don't want to lose that ESPN and General Hospital money. I forgot about General Hospital. I don't think he's a regular on General Hospital, is he? General Hospital, if I'm not mistaken, that's a soap opera, right? That he used to talk about a lot and stuff like that. And I think they let him be on like 2 episodes. That would be funny if after this apology, they brought him on as a regular on General Hospital. That would be actually be hilarious. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, he's doing what he has to do to stay, within the good graces of the mainstream. And it is what it is. Another one bites the dust. We've seen this movie play out over and over again. And Stephen A. is just another casualty of the big mainstream media check that folks don't want to lose once they get put on. So it is what it is. It is what it is. So once again, thank you all for joining me today. Hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. If you've been ghost watching this channel, which you're probably doing right now, you're always ghost watching me. hit the subscribe button. Thank you very much. Right. And share this video on your social media platforms as well. And follow me on Telegram at TD Media Group. Follow me on Telegram at TD Media Group. The link is in the description box below. And it'll be pinned in the comment section once the stream is over. And the stream is over right now. Have a good evening and a safe one. Catch you next stream. Peace.